Hey there, creators! Welcome back to your next exciting project. Today, we're diving into building a stunning login form with a mesmerizing wave effect on the labels. Watch this. When I click in the input field, see how the label waves up. Isn't that cool? We get this engaging animation when we click in and out. Here's how we do it. We'll wrap a span around each label using JavaScript and add transitions so the label moves up when the input is focused. We'll also add a dynamic transition delay, giving each letter its own unique wave, creating a truly captivating effect. Ready to get started? Let's dive in and create something awesome. If you enjoyed this project, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and subscribe to our channel for more exciting content. Hit the bell icon to get notified whenever we post a new video. Thanks for watching. Ready to get started? Let's dive in and create something awesome. Okay, so let's get started on our form input wave project. I have my project starter open here. It's going to say form input wave, and then let's get rid of this heading one. We're just going to wrap a container around our form. So we'll have a container with a heading one that says please log in a basic login form. Inside the form tag, we don't need an action attribute. In here, we're going to have a form control, which will wrap around the input that is going to be of type text. I'm also going to add the required attribute, which will give it some basic validation. The label will go underneath, and we don't really need it for attribute, so we'll get rid of that and just say email. Then I'm going to go ahead and copy that down. This one is going to be for the password, so type password and label it as password underneath that form control. We're going to have a button, and I'm going to give it a class of btn, and let's just say login. Then we'll have a paragraph with a class of text that says don't have an account. If they don't have an account, we'll have a link that doesn't have to go anywhere and say register. Alright, so that's our form, pretty simple. Before I get into CSS, I want to explain what we're going to be doing. We want to use JavaScript to basically wrap each letter in a span, and we're going to have a transition on that span to move it up. So a transform translative value to move it up with the transition to make it smooth. In JavaScript, when we wrap the span around each letter, we are also going to add a transition delay to each one that increases with every letter so that the first one goes up, then the next with the delay, and so on. This gives it that wave effect. That's ultimately what we're going to end up with. In fact, I'll go ahead and paste in what these labels will look like afterwards. Basically, we'll have the label tag with each letter wrapped in a span with a transition delay that increments. I'm just going to comment that out, but just so you can see what we're going to end up with. Before we get into any of that, let's do some basic styling on this form because it looks horrible. I'm going to use the Mooly font, so we'll set that on the body. And then I'm going to set a background color for the body to steel blue and the text color to white. Then let's style the container with a background color of RGBA black with 0.4 for a transparent look, padding of 20 pixels top and bottom and 40 pixels left and right, and a slight border radius of 5 pixels. For the container heading 1, I want to text align it to the center and add a margin on the bottom of 30 pixels. For the link, let's say container A, we want text decoration none to take away the underline and the color to light blue. Now for the form fields, we have the form control which wraps around the input and the labels. I'll position that relative because I want the label to be positioned absolute within it. For margin, let's do 20 pixels top and bottom and 0 left and right, and a width of 300 pixels. For the input, I'm going to set the background color to transparent and get rid of that border, but I do want a border on the bottom. So border bottom 2 pixels solid white. I want the input to be on its own line, so display block and width 100% with padding of 15 pixels top and bottom and a font size of 18 pixels and the color to white. For the outline, we want to get rid of that too. So form control input focus and form control input valid, set the outline to 0. Now we don't have that ugly border. Let's finish the button and the text. We have a class of btn and I'm going to set the cursor to pointer, display as an inline block, width 100%, background color to light blue, padding 15 pixels, font family inherit, font size 16 pixels, border 0 and a border radius of 5 pixels. For BTN focus, set the outline to 0. We can also add a little hover effect. So BTN active will have a transform scale 0.90 for a click effect. The text class has a margin top of 30 pixels to push it down a bit. We'll style the label in the next. We need to use JavaScript to turn the label into letters with spans around them with a transition delay. We're also going to have a transition on the label span. We'll get
script to turn the label into letters with spans around them with a transition delay. We're also going to add a transition, obviously, on the label span. So we'll get into that in the next video. Okay, so we're going to finish this form up. So I'm going to work on the labels here. So here we'll just take form
thinking about all the things we did tonight. What a time to be alive. Just you and I. Just you and I.
And that's because form control itself is relative, so if positioning absolutely math. And we're going to put from the top 15 pixels and from the left 0. Now right now the way it is, if I start to type in here, it's going to just cover ultimately the label is going to wave upwards when you click on it. Right. Now, before we actually style span, I want to add it because right now there is no span. You don't have this, it's just label and word. So we're going to use JavaScript to basically turn this into this. So let's jump into our script now. And first I want to bring in our labels. So let's use document dot query select all. Because it doesn't matter how many labels there are, we want to get them all. So form dash control label. And that will give us a node list of all the labels. So since it's a node list, we can go ahead and use for each on it, and we'll say for each label, I'm going to take label.inner.html and set it. Now, first, there's a couple things you want to do. You want to get the inner text, which is just going to be, each letter. So E-M-A-I-L in this case for the first one. And then I'm going to split it into an array. I'm going to go into the next line called .split. What that does, if we put an empty string in there, is it splits the letters into an array. So it'll be an array with the first value E, the second M, and so on. Now from that, I want to manipulate it, so I'm going to use .map, which you can use on an array, which now this is, to turn it into an array of something else. And what we want to turn it into, for now, is an array of letters with a span around it with a transition. So let's say map, and let's just take some arrow function. I'm just going to use backticks here, so we want to just turn it directly into spans that we're going to have here. We need to pass in here for each letter. And I also want the index, which just starts at 0 and increments for every item in the array. And I want to turn it into, let's say, span. And inside here, we want to have whatever the letter is. So this will turn it into an array of letters with a span around it. Now, obviously, we don't want an array. We want it to be a string, so we can use join and just pass in an empty string, and that will turn it back into a string. Okay, so basically we have the inner text. We're moving through the label. We have the inner text, E-M-A-I-L. The first one, we're splitting it into an array to put each letter in its own item in the array. Then we're mapping it to create an array of the letter with a span around it. Then we're turning it back into a string. So if I save this now, you don't see any difference here, but if I open up my Elements tab and I click on the label here, you see that now they're wrapped in spans. So I'm not going to add the delay to transition delay just yet. Let's go back to our CSS, and now that we have these spans, we can add styling for it. So let's do just the span in general first. So let's say form control label span, and I'm going to display. Let's do display inline block. It's inline by default. And then I'm going to increase the font size. Yeah, I just want to go back home. Can't do this anymore. I can't get through to you. So before this wouldn't have worked because we didn't have spans around. And then let's do a min dash width 5 pixels. And we're going to add a transition on this because when we add the transform value, actually we'll add that first. So let's go up here. Down here, and let's say form control input focus. So focus meaning, when we click inside, we want the direct label span, and we also want to do this on the validation. So I'll actually just copy this down, and we also want the and what we'll do is just first of all change the color to light blue. So if I click in here, you can see the label turns light blue. I also want to turn the border light blue as well. So up here, where we did the outline on the input focus and valid, let's do bottom, or I'm sorry, border bottom, and let's set that border bottom color rather, and set that to light blue. So that way when we click in here, both the border and the text here is light blue. Now, let's see, we want to move this up basically when we click in here. So to do that, we can add a transform, and we want to use translate Y because we're translating it. We're dealing with it on the Y axis. So translate Y, and I want to move it up, so it has to be a negative number. If I want to move it down, it would be positive. So let's do negative 30 pixels. So when I click in here, you can see they move up, and they just flicker up. It's not smooth, so that's why I'm going to add a transition onto the span right here. So let's say transition, and we'll do 0.3 seconds. And then we could do like an ease in, ease out. I'm going to use a cubic Bezier. And then for the values here, basically what this is it defines a cubic Bezier defines a curve, and we can use it as a transition effect with a variable speed from the start to end. And it takes in 4 points, which are P0, P1, P2, P3. P0 and P3 at the start and the end of the curve. So, I mean, it can get a lot more complicated if you're doing really cool animations, but this is pretty simple. We're just going to use double values here, 0.68, negative 0.55, 0.265, and 1.55. So we have a variable speed now. If I click in here, now it doesn't just flick up, it has that cool bounce. Now we don't want the whole thing to go up at once. You could do that, I mean, you could leave it like that if you want, but I want to have that wave effect, so that's where the transition delay comes, because we already have the transition, and it's transitioning this right here, transform, translate, and moves up. So in our script, let's add onto the span in inline style, and we'll set that to, let's say, transition dash delay. Now, when we set this, we don't want to set it to a fixed value because it will do the same thing. We'll just wait and it will flicker them all up at the same time. So what I'm going to do here is use the index, which just starts at 0, then 1, 2, 3, and so on. And I'm going to multiply it by 50. So the first one will be 0, second 150, third one will be 150, 200, 250, and so on. And I'll save that, and if I click, oh, we need to add in milliseconds. So after the transition to that number, we need to add this. There we go. And of course, you can change this, like we could do 30. Just very slow. 50 milliseconds. I think that 50 is good though. Make it faster. You can barely see the thing, so I think 50 is good. Alright, so that's how you can add this. That's it. Hope you guys like this project. We'll move on to
Baby, is the game over?